Hi, this is Bill Hanna, Executive Editor of Mesabi Daily News. I'm here with Jason Metsa, State Representative from House 6B. I want to talk about a couple of public safety issues. One of them very tragic indeed, the other one very controversial. One is dealing with Hat Trick Avenue, and we lost a 16-year-old Iron Range girl last September in an accident there. And there's been other accidents in that area. Jason, if you can tell me what is going on regarding any safety improvements for that area, Highway 53 and Hat Trick Avenue.
Anytime our community loses someone like Hannah Wilson, and we want to make sure that we're looking at some good solutions to the actual problem. And the problem I'm seeing at Hat Trick Avenue after meeting with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, the local city council, we've had 5 or 6 pretty long and discussive meetings where we've been able to nail out a plan that I think will help in the interim and then also over the long term to improve the corridor. And so basically what we've done with the Hat Trick intersection today, right before I got here, we kind of had a gentleman's agreement and shook hands with everyone who came to the meeting. We met with all the local businesses that could make it from Eveleth, and the city council members who were able to make it, and the Minnesota Department of Transportation folks, and Commissioner Keith Nelson was there with us. And it's basically putting in a flashing light system for starters. So there'll be some flashing lights so people can be aware that the intersection's there. And then what we'll have is a sign basically that'll read your speed and report it back to you, much like a lot of you have seen on the roads around the state in different spots. But we thought that would bring awareness to slowing down. The average speed through that area is 62 miles an hour heading northbound, and 64 miles an hour heading south. I might have screwed up with the northbound, but it's 61, 62, somewhere right in there. And so really just bringing, people can hit the brakes while they're going through there and be cognizant that there's the intersection and, through traffic. That's the most important thing. We were fighting for a stoplight, and the data, is simply showing that if you put in a stoplight there, you'll have more accidents statistically. And so that's where we started, where we got to as a good middle ground, I feel. And the long-term solution is actually going to be a traffic warning signal where we'll have, if someone pulls up in to go across the highway on the frontage roads, and say if they want to get from Goodfellas to J&M Auto to go get their car worked on or an oil change, they're going to have a flashing light system where they pull up, and both the northbound and southbound will see flashing lights to notify them that a car is actually in the intersection and ready to pass. And so that's something that there aren't many of them in the state right now. They've agreed to use this intersection as a pilot and do more research on it. And the business members who were able to attend, the council members, and the city of Eveleth, and myself and Senator Thomasoni are all supportive of moving forward with that plan. And ultimately the benefits to Eveleth for a long-term solution with, not going to war with the DOT, so to speak, are we're taking that intersection, putting something in that's temporary that we can study, but then expanding out. We should have an underpass there for our ATV traffic and pedestrian traffic and snowmobile traffic. And that's something we're going to look at. And also we're working on a land exchange, which I'll be sending off to David Dill's committee soon. And that'll enable the frontage roads to get all the way down on both sides. And so we can alleviate some of the cross traffic there. And ultimately, MnDOT's agreed that this is something that they will look for funding for us. So it's a, I think, good win-win for the community. We expand our business corridor there and find some solutions to make it easier for traffic to get in and out. I think it's a win for everyone. So I was really, glad to be a part of it. And then, obviously Hannah Wilson, her family, if we can eliminate something like that happening in the future or minimize it as much as we can. That's, the public safety is really the main concern and outcome, and I think we accomplished the public safety aspect of it and, a good long-term solution for the local community. So.
Jason, those all sound good. That sounds like some, like you say, a compromise, finding a middle ground, especially with MnDOT. If you can ever find a middle ground with MnDOT, that's a victory in itself. Let's talk a little bit more about what some people would call public safety. Other people would call trying to take away Second Amendment rights. Gun control, big issue early in the session down in St. Paul. A lot of rallies down there on both sides of the issue. Number of bills, I think, floating around. Where are you at on anything, and what do you think is going to happen regarding the gun control issue?
You know, Bill, gun control's been something that really I've received the most correspondence on this year. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure most of my other Democrat and DFL colleagues agree with in rural areas is we want to make sure that what they're proposing is fair to people who believe in the Second Amendment and you know, kind of a different way than they do in the metro areas. And you know, I think there's merits to both sides of the argument, but I've been shooting what people would deem as assault rifles, whether it be a 30-06 or a 30-30, that's semi-automatic, since I was young. Since I don't even remember the first time we went out and blasted off a few rounds in the gravel pit. So, you know, I'm not in support of any of the legislation that's currently being proposed down there. You know, I think the real conversation, and I wish someone would put in a bill that was going to deal with just mental health care and making sure that, you know, people, one, were getting the care that they need before they ever go out and make a decision like this if they're mentally unstable. And, you know, I know that would probably lead you to ask the question, should we have national background checks in the database? And I think that's a fair question. Am I right on that? Would probably be the next.
You're right on the money. That would be the follow-up.
So you know, dealing with that, I think it's got to get handed down from the federal level, and then it's our job as a state to kind of work around those parameters. And so I would challenge our federal legislators to make sure that we have clear definitions of what an assault weapon is. And you know, I think right now everyone says assault weapon, and you close your eyes and picture a weapon, everyone's thinking something else. And so we need real clear legal definitions of what we're talking about before the conversation even continues. And you start talking about mental health care, and you know, certain mental illnesses disqualifying you from being able to own a weapon or purchase a weapon. I think that's got to be a very careful conversation too. I've tried to take Wellbutrin before to quit smoking, and I don't think that should disqualify me or anyone else who's done that from purchasing a weapon or owning a weapon. So I really think that the conversation needs to be had, but I think that we need to start with defining what we're talking about. And right now, that's not what we're doing. We're kind of defining, hey, you can only have a 7-round clip, or you know, you can only do this or that. And I really think that we need to get back and change the conversation to, look, right now, we can invest in mental health care. We want to avoid tragedies like Sandy Hook. And I think that's where we start. And so moving forward with this debate, I just wanted to let everyone up here know that myself, some rural DFL legislators from around the state, and also some metro legislators from my party are not supporting any of these changes, and that we feel like we've got enough votes to pretty much block any passage on the House floor. And so I'd you know, just like to let people know that we're working hard to make sure that your Second Amendment rights are protected here in Minnesota. There may be changes on a federal level that we can't do anything about, but we'll have to wait and see what they're doing and just kind of take it from there. But I think, you know, all of us being committed to making sure that people with mental health problems get the attention they need, get the care that they need, that should be where or at least will be what I'm going to be talking about. I've got a bill that I've just authored, which will also get you some more information about, or to Irmla down there, who's been doing a great job keeping us informed up here. Even myself, sometimes when I'm reading the articles, I didn't catch it going through, so just goes to show how good having your local news down at the Capitol is. And so I'll get you some more information on that bill and make sure that we have a real discussion about mental health care and finding the solutions that we can there first. So.
Jason, another very timely local issue. Just this past week, the makeup of the IRRRB board was changed, and it actually caused a split between range representatives and range senators. You want to talk a little bit about that? It also eliminated the 3 citizen board members that were brought in, I believe, 1998, I think. I think the history of that is about right. So about 14 years we've had citizen board members on. Your thoughts on the process, how it happened, and how do you think the board makeup will work?
So we had, months of actually discussion amongst the range delegation, and Commissioner Surdich, who was able to help us get together and talk about some of the things. We couldn't appoint a board is basically what it came down to under the current law that we were dealing with. And so we needed to make adjustments to the board, and looking at, I'll start with citizens. Looking at the citizens, we've had Joe Begich. Tom Ricavina would have been a probably very likely second choice, and I don't know who Senator Bach would have gone with from the Senate side, but the way I look at it, a former legislator is probably not, I'm not saying they're bad, but not the best form of citizen oversight. And what a lot of people aren't talking about with the citizens that we deal with on the IRRRB, which from being at the meetings, way more than me so far too, would be that we do have a citizen oversight process that looks at every single project along the way. And you do your due diligence, and when we're looking at projects, the community often has a lot of time to give input. The paper stays on top of it and make sure that things we're talking about aren't 2-minute decisions. They're 2-month decisions, 3-month decisions, and so I feel like we have an adequate amount of time to get public input, and also with the citizen oversight that's currently there, that it's being done in that way too. And so I feel comfortable with eliminating those positions. I see them from my short history in the politics up here so far as being very partisan. And so we've had Republican appointees, Democrat appointees, and it's usually political people. And the whole idea of putting in this bill with Representative Moline and I and Representative Anzels and everyone on the board really was to make sure that this is fair to the taconite tax relief area's constituents, whether you're living in Eveleth or in Aiken County. And so looking into the future, we decided we need to make sure that we have the percentage, which was at 50 before, dropped down because folks like Senator Bach wouldn't have been appointed otherwise. And so we dropped that down to 1/3, and that basically left it at 8 people being on the board, just with the math. And so the whole idea about this again is that people who represent actual chunks of land in their districts where constituents live are representing the money that's being spent on that board. And so I think that's the main thing that I like about the way we've done this. We got into a little tussle over the 9th vote. We're already over it. It's one little bump in the road along the way. But things were just moving so quickly down at the legislature, we didn't have the time to adequately look at it, sit down as a group and have a meeting. And so we went separate ways on it, but now we've come to agreements and we're all on the same page and moving forward, looking forward to working on the budget and a lot more important issues outside the IRRRB that'll be affecting all of us. So.
Well, Jason, thanks a lot. I think it was great to touch on a couple of important, one very important road safety issue in Eveleth, and you brought some real news on that to our viewers out there, and it will be in a story also in Mesabi Daily News on Saturday. And also dealing with the gun control issue, which is the probably the most emotional issue down in St. Paul right now, and really across the country, and it's going to have a lot more debate and discussion, and I'm sure we'll touch on it again during the session. And again, thanks for coming by. This is going to be on a regular basis that Representative Metsa, and we hope to get some of the other Iron Range legislators in here to connect with constituents.